The DA plans to table a motion of no confidence against Premier Panyaza Lesufi for what it calls a failed and costly crime prevention wardens program known as Amapanyaza. This follows Lesufi's announcement that the Amapanyaza will be disbanded for them to undergo training to become fully-fledged traffic officers. For more, we are joined by the DA Gauteng's Crezane Bosch. Crezane, thank you so much for your time this evening. And before we even get to the motion of no confidence, I just want to take us back a bit to the establishment of these Amabanyaza, as they are called. There were various sects of society that were displeased with this, and the DA also being quite critical of it. What did you make when you heard what the public protector had to say?
Well, we felt vindicated as a DA, especially in Gauteng, for the longest of time since these wardens and the warden project, the Crime Prevention Warden project, was started in 2023. We said that this was a vanity project and an election ploy from the Premier Lesufi. He was trying to mimic what we do as a DA in the Western Cape, more specifically in the city of Cape Town, in collaboration with the Western Cape government and the Community Safety Department. But he unfortunately never followed the right processes. He never registered them properly. He never trained them properly. And so we knew from the start that this was illegal, and it was also unfunded. We raised numerous questions about it. So finally, to get this public protector report on it is definitely a vindication for us to say that, it wasn't just politics, but it was actually serious. And Premier Lesufi should have taken the time to just at least consult us and listen to us.
And speaking about the politics of it as well, as the DA, was your disgruntlement the fact that it wasn't established legally or procedurally, or the fact that he was doing this in the first place? Because as we know, Gauteng is riddled with crime hotspots, and residents are looking for law enforcement to be beefed up.
It's definitely not a matter of that we had any beef with Premier Lesufi for starting a project like this. It was just a matter of doing it properly. Yes, we do require boots on the ground, but the amount of money that was spent on this project could have been used to assist the police stations in Gauteng to be better equipped, more resourced, get better infrastructure. I mean, we've got 144 police stations in Gauteng that are severely under-resourced. Buying all those BMWs, fancy BMWs for these wardens could have assisted with multiple vehicles to these police stations to assist them with resources to actually fight crime. If we don't get the basics right, regardless of how many boots on the ground we're going to have, we're not going to be able to resolve the issue of crime. And Gauteng remains the epicenter of crime in this country. And this is visible on the crime stats. On every quarterly crime stats, you can see that Gauteng dominates the top 30 police stations in the country.
So now it's said that these wardens will undergo training to become fully-fledged traffic officers. As the DA, what's your position on that?
The big question is who is going to fund this? Because, I mean, this is just going to cost more money. They should have undergone with correct training from the start. If you look at the LEAP officers in the Western Cape, they undergo training course from 6 to 18 months with continuous training, through the colleges and the training academies, for the Metro Police in the Western Cape, in Cape Town. If we want to have a collaboration now with municipalities, first of all, these municipalities in Gauteng have not been consulted. We have spoken to various officials and stakeholders in different municipalities in Gauteng to try and inquire if there's been any consultation, and there's been no consultation. So he's actually just continuing on the same trajectory that he started with his project in the first place. And the big question is, who is going to fund this? Who is going to fund this project? Because, and which municipalities, on what budget is it going to be funded from?
And now let's talk about the motion of no confidence that you're saying you will institute against the Gauteng Premier, Panyaza Lesufi. As the DA in the province of Gauteng, do you really have the numbers?
Well, we are busy consulting other political parties. Our caucus leader, Solium Simanga, has issued a letter to each of the caucus leaders in the legislature that's got seats in the legislature to open up a door for discussion with them. But the real question will be is, are they prioritizing Premier Lesufi or are they prioritizing the residents of Gauteng? And this is a question that they will need to ask themselves when they have their internal discussions as to whether they are willing to meet with us and willing to talk with us about the way forward in Gauteng. We cannot continue to play with the lives of the residents of Gauteng. It's time to prioritize Gauteng and the residents of Gauteng, and this means that we need an accountable and responsive government, and unfortunately Premier Lesufi cannot do that. He cannot provide that, and he cannot continue in his role as Premier. In any private sector company, if a CEO or management, a manager did something disastrous like this and wasted money like this, they would have stepped aside and they would have packed their bags. So in this case, this is what Premier Lesufi should do as well.
Crezane, as the DA, you are on the out in Gauteng. You're not part of the government of provincial unity. Remember, there were those long talks after the last year's general elections as well, and it put the DA on the out when it comes to Gauteng. So what are the chances of these other parties that you're saying you've opened the door to for these discussions actually siding with you when you're actually on your own?
I don't believe that we are on our own. I mean, if you had to listen to discussions in the passages and corridors, there's a lot of people that feels unhappy with the way that Premier Lesufi has been managing the province. I mean, even if you look at our legislature meetings, he doesn't even make the effort to come to some of these meetings. He'll arrive late, he'll leave early. He's clearly not prioritizing Gauteng, and this is visible to everyone that's sitting in the legislature. So I think time will tell as to what the decision is that these parties will make. But we are busy consulting and negotiating with them, opening the door for these discussions, and we'll just have to wait and see what happens.
What would your next move be? I mean, if we just look at history just in this year alone and how many times the DA has tried to institute motions of no confidence in mayors in Gauteng alone and failed at all those motions of no confidence, what would your next step be if you fail again at this one?
Well, the other political parties will have to take responsibility for supporting a premier who is not responsive and accountable and who's wasting the taxpayers' money and not prioritizing the residents of Gauteng. We will continue in the opposition benches, and we will continue to hold the current government, including all the political parties who supported Premier Lesufi in this motion of no confidence, accountable in the process. So we will continue to be responsive, to do our oversight, and to do our issue driving to ensure that we hold them accountable for everything, especially when it comes to the mismanagement and wasteful expenditure in this province. Someone needs to speak up, and that is our role in this province.
And just finally, Crezane, when do you anticipate this motion of no confidence taking place?
Well, the motion of no confidence has been submitted, and it will be tabled at the programming committee through the Speaker's office, and then they will need to take a decision as to how soon it will serve. If I remember correctly, it will need to serve within the next 40 days. That is, if I remember correctly. So we will need to wait and see, but possibly sometime before the end of this year, that we will be able to actually take this motion to the House and debate it then in a sitting.
Crezane, thank you so much for your time this evening.